Hello, everybody. This is James Diamond with Massive Action Systems, and we have an expert interview for you today. Now, we're going to be covering two different subjects. We're going to be covering, number one, getting new talent for your firm, why you should be doing it, what you need to know about doing it right, and a few things you probably need to be careful of in doing it. Now, the second thing that we're going to cover is mergers and acquisitions within the world of accounting. We'll talk about who this is for, what's happening now in this market, and what you really need to know for a smooth transaction and avoiding disasters. So to get started, though, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. You'll probably note that this was recorded live, and it's a live broadcast. So if you see a little bit of weirdness in the audio or the video might be a little jumpy, just know that's where it came from, all right? And for most of you, I'm sure you know who I am. And for those of you who have no idea who I am, again, my name is James Diamond. And in a nutshell, you know how businesses love to form strategic partnerships so they can grow their clients, right? Well, I'm that guy for accountants. I'm the strategic partner so they can get more clients easily. Now, if you have any questions about that, you can feel free to contact me. It's 269-580-8018. That's 269-580-8018. Now, our expert today, David, he is the Chief Operating Officer of Whitman Business Advisors, and they can be found at WhitmanBiz, that's biz.com. I'll spell it for you. It's WHITMANBIZ.com, okay? And I want to thank you, David, for taking the time out of your schedule. I know you've got stuff you've got to do to be interviewed. David, I know you've got, what's the proper pronunciation of your background so that everybody know, or your proper pronunciation of your name so everybody knows in your last name?
It's a Wolfskehl.
Wolfskehl, okay, all right. So I guess to get started on this, let's talk about, give us a real quick background, like who you are, you know, who Whitman Business Advisors is, and, you know, what they do for the world.
So my background has been, I've been entrepreneurial my whole life. I never really had a resume. In the mid-2000s, I was a Fortune Small Business Boss of the Year runner-up. And I decided to sell my business at that point because I wasn't passionate about it. I got into the accounting space through Amper Policy and Matea, which is now Eisner Amper. I did a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce. Somebody from Amper came up to me and said, "We need you," which I took as a buying signal.
Right.
And now I am the Director of Operations for Whitman Business Advisors, and we're a group of 10 people. We focus solely on CPA firms, and we want to be that single source for solutions for managing partners. And so we've developed our 6-pack plus of services, which are mergers and acquisitions, talent, and those two we're going to talk about today, lead generation, partner retreats, training and coaching. And so we want to be that single source solution.
Mergers and acquisitions into this. And of course, we're talking about amongst accounting firms here specifically. I guess I'm going to give you kind of a multi-part question here. So hopefully we can both remember where we're at on this, but
I will try.
When it comes to mergers and acquisitions, I mean, why would a firm consider it? I guess what, you know, who should be considering it as a firm, and what problems does it solve, and what opportunities does it create?
So there's a number of places where firms consider it. I'm sure that you walk into firms where there's a lot of older partners and no younger partners. So oftentimes those firms are merging as a way to monetize their lifetime of work, because when they look internally, there's nobody that they're comfortable will be able to pay them off. So they merge up to go from a junk bond, which is the person they've been working with for the last 20 years, to a AAA bond, which is a larger firm. So succession is a significant driver of M&A. But there's a number of other reasons that people join firms. Another one is a lot of times people get tired of doing the administrative stuff. In smaller firms, we typically take the best rainmaker and then give them a lot of responsibilities to take them away from what they're doing. So a lot of managing partners who feel that way Or if I merge into a larger firm, I'll have additional resources and I'll be able to do what I do best and is most valuable. The third thing that we see is also firms that are looking to grow. And by joining a larger platform, they'll have more opportunities to cross-sell. Oftentimes, it allows them to get into larger and higher fee clients. And so that's another reason. So it's a succession. It's tired of doing administrative stuff. And it's a growth strategy that allows them to be on a better platform.
Right. And, you know, that makes really, really total sense, because even in my world, one of the ways that, you know, we help other businesses to grow is they work with other businesses' lists. And that's kind of what you're doing there too, to a degree too, is you're really, you know, stepping up, and that cross-selling also such a big thing as far as expanding. I can see how that genuinely be a win-win for a lot of people in the right scenario.
Right.
Now,
one of the things that, just to add one other point that's really critical, is one of the things that we also see is there's a lot of excitement before the merger. We're going to merge. I'm going to introduce you. We're going to cross-sell. We have all these big plans. And then what happens the day after the merger? Our employee benefits are equalized. We decide on software, tax software typically. We get new business cards. And then it's business as usual. So when firms work with us, we really emphasize post-merger integration so that most mergers are successful if chemistry and culture is correct, but they don't maximize the opportunity because they don't invest enough time and resources on that post-merger integration.
Okay. Yeah. You know, and I was thinking about that too, because, you know, now you've taken, it's a lot like a marriage. You know, you've got two people who's got two different backgrounds. They've got different ideas, different habits, different procedures. And, you know, now you're throwing them into the mix. And that I would have to imagine that post-merger integration would have to be critical to the success of, you know, any accounting firm going together like that.
Well, I would totally agree with that. But again, what we find oftentimes, it's business as usual. And so when you go into that firm 3 years later, it's still those guys from the old firm, and we're from the other firm, and they're not really even one team yet, oftentimes we see. And that can be years later because they didn't spend that time really at the beginning of the process.
You know, I can totally see that. I can totally see that. I guess when you're looking at, because you're the expert and you've been in the arena for a while, in looking at the mergers and acquisitions right now, is there any particular trends that you're noticing in the world of mergers and acquisitions amongst accountants?
So a couple things that we're seeing. Number one, it's a crazy market. You know, as the population of leaders is aging, and according to the AICPA, in the next 10 years, 75% of current partners will be eligible for retirement. There's this rush to merge. That's one thing. Another thing that we're seeing is the larger firms are willing to take on smaller firms, but they're also getting pickier about their valuations and are more likely to ding a firm for things like poor quality control. And some other type of, or poor technology, where all of a sudden their valuation might go from a 1 to a 0.8. So oftentimes we recommend people to do a pre-merger checkup. Let's have an outside person look at what we're doing. So if we do have some deficiencies, oftentimes it's cheaper to fix them and wait a year rather than jump in and get a lower valuation.
Right. No, that makes total sense to me. I guess if you were talking about mergers and acquisitions, and we have some on here, I'm sure they're going to watch this and think to themselves, okay, this might be an option for me. But they're going to be a little hesitant, a little confused on it. I guess if you were to talk to somebody, they're brand new, you know, they're just coming to you with this idea, what would you tell them? Hey, this is probably what you should do first? Where should they start out at?
Well, and I'm going to talk also about a typical mistake that they make. So you need to start looking internally. If you're looking to be the larger firm, bringing in smaller firms, just like we talked about with talent. Is your conference room from 1974? Is the office old and nobody would want to join it? Take a hard look at yourself first. With sellers, we oftentimes see that me and you built a relationship and now I'm ready to sell, and this is the once in a lifetime opportunity that I'm going to do this, and I get the one person I know. So if they work with somebody like us, the buyer pays us, not the seller. We've done this multiple times, and the seller typically has done this once or none. And then the larger firms, they do this all the time. Smaller firm only once. So who's more knowledgeable? And typically knowledge leads to power. I had this one managing partner tell me, hey, I'm going to go to this firm. He already told me what deal they do. And that was great, except for we've done 3 deals and they've all been different. But he would never know that, but we did. So having the right resources available to you typically will drive higher multiples, quicker closing, and get deals done, because it's emotional and it's hard.
Absolutely. I can see, every bit of what you've said thus far. I totally can see that in these different scenarios. I guess is, when it comes to, potential pitfalls and so forth, is there anything else that you think you would tell somebody that's considering this? Okay, here's what you need to watch out for. Here's what you should possibly, know, or what if scenarios should you really address before, going headlong into this. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Absolutely. So the first thing that we start with is our 4 C's, and that is chemistry. If you don't like the person, not going to work. Culture of the firms. You work 80 hours, they work 40 hours. That's a significant problem as well. Do you have similar core niches or complementary core niches? And then do you have similar client bases? And that could be, you're used to working with the ultra high net worth, and I'm used to working with the people who walk in off the street. That's not a good fit. You want to get those things on the table first meeting. Then the second meeting, and sometimes the third, we want to talk about things like partner compensation. And here's a quick story. We're working with a firm that we introduced, and it was a large firm, and they said, we don't need you anymore. We made the introduction, we're good. 15 months later, they talked about partner compensation, and there was a mismatch, and that deal almost died. If they would have followed our process, we would have talked about that at the second, perhaps third meeting. And so what we find is when people don't talk about the difficult things, partner compensation, governance, am I going to be on the executive committee? Am I even going to be a partner or an equity partner? Things of those nature, oftentimes they spend months and months and sometimes year focusing on chemistry. We like each other, but not getting to the heart of the matter. We believe within the first 2, sometimes 3 meetings, you should know whether this deal has the potential to get to closing, or we get to know quickly and move on.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, this is just kind of what I'm taking from this as I listen to you talk on it, is that the challenge can be sometimes knowing the priorities about what you need to talk about in those meetings, those first several meetings. But also the challenge can be if a practice isn't bringing on a consultant who is experienced in guiding them through that, they might not know what they don't know. So they don't know what they should really be asking that really should be asked, because it can be really critical later on down the road and can cause some problems. Is that right?
It can cause problems, but also it becomes very expensive. We know one firm in California, they had partner lunches with all the partners. They had partner and spouses dinner. And then they found out that their compensation was too far apart and the deal died. Well, it's very expensive to have 20 partners not billing for a lunch. That's not a cheap lunch.
Right.
Again, let's find out about that up front so that we can either move forward or not move forward on those type of things.
And it's interesting too, because as I'm hearing you just talk about that, even I know that just in my business alone, I have a marketing agency, and what I notice is the clients are really happy because what they discover is even though they have to pay me to help them with their marketing, they're making a whole lot more money than they would have otherwise made, and they're getting their advertising cheaper. So in essence, when they hire me, it's almost like they're getting me for free because of that experience. And I'm kind of getting the feeling that it's a similar situation with using an advisory company like yours, that they're really going to be saving or making a lot more than they would possibly be spending to get you to help them out, because they're really leveraging their money by using you. I mean, is that a fair estimate?
I think that's a perfect analogy. With your marketing, you've been doing this for a long time successfully. You know a lot more about how to be effective in that space than they ever will. And I agree with you. You come for free, and we come for free in many instances.
Right, and that's really, it's a big thing to consider. And I would imagine also I know for a lot of our clients, it's not just the money too, it's the amount of time that they save compared to trying to do something themselves. And I would imagine for your business too, when you get involved, you're a huge time and energy saver for the companies that you're working with.
Huge time and energy saver, because again, we do it all the time. If you're selling your firm, this is probably the only time you've done it. Like you said, they don't know what they don't know. We've seen it. We've lived it. We know. Sort of like those new, not State Farm, Farmers Insurance commercials, right? Right? We've seen it before. Right.
Okay. Well, I guess, is there anything, I guess, that you want to tack on to this that you think, again, like the last section, is there anything like a should ask question that people should be asking about them, their situation, whether they should be doing this or not? Or is there a frequently asked question that you'd like to address that comes up really common? Is there anything like that you'd like to put on the end of this?
Well, one thing that we find that many firms do not think about, but offer a really good solution, is to be the satellite office for a national firm or an out-of-town firm, because it gives you the best of both worlds. So you're part of a bigger firm, so you have those resources, you have those people there to support you, but since you're an office not in their primary location, you also typically have a significant amount of autonomy to continue to do things in a similar way, similar type of leadership. And the managing partner is now part of the executive committee, but in many ways, the day-to-day doesn't change significantly. So that would be number one. Number two, oftentimes this is the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you not to survey the marketplace, take a look at who is out there, and have multiple conversations with multiple people. I believe you are not doing the best for you, your firm, or your family. No,
that's, I really like that. I guess I never thought about the satellite office aspect of it. That's a brilliant little nugget, I think, for probably a lot of people, that are going to, listen to this. That's good. I guess I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you about the talent section of it. Let's say somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, well, I might be a good fit for this, but I want to get a little more information before I move forward. Who should they be calling at your firm? I mean, what should they be asking for? What should they expect as far as the procedure of how you move them along on this?
So if somebody calls us, and again, it's 844-WBA-TEAM, they would call me as the primary person. And if I'm not the right person within our organization, I will bring them to that. If they are looking to acquire firms, we want to see them, talk to them, get an idea of what that culture is in that firm, because we only want to bring the right opportunities. Not that they all close, but there's all a good reason to bring it in there. And so if they're looking to sell, that's something that we can help them quickly, and we know that broader market typically than they do.
Okay. All right. And now if I get this right, that number again, in case somebody wants to know, it's 844-922-8326, right?
That's pretty amazing. Yes.
All right. I know you have the little name on it like that, but for some reason my brain doesn't think in that way. I've got to have the actual numbers. So again, David, I want to take time to thank you for the interview, because again, I know that you're busy. I really appreciate your time, and I know that a lot of the listeners are going to get some tremendous value from this. So I thank you so much for this.
Well, thank you. We want to educate people. We are here to be a resource. So it's really my pleasure that you were able to help me expand our message. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, very good. Once again, this is James Diamond, and you can reach David at 1-844-922-8326. And their website is whitmanbiz, that's biz.com. And you can find them on there. You can take a look over their website, get more information on them. But I would suspect that to get the information you really want to know, I think I'd probably give them a jingle and talk to somebody in person. Okay, everybody, I shall talk to you later.